And maybe most importantly, you deserve it. You're worth it. Under no circumstances should you have to chip away at your personal health and wellness to further the agenda of some organization. Now, right out of the gate, there's 5 things I'd like to share. Even though it doesn't always feel like it, you do have a lot of control over your work-life balance, so look for and take that agency. Despite what you may have seen or heard, overworking is nothing to celebrate. It's not like overworking is something that's admirable on this end, and then it's somehow lazy or selfish to insist on balance for yourself. Work-life balance is profoundly personal, so you can't expect someone else's answers to necessarily be the right answers for you. It can't wait. It is too important to defer. And maybe most importantly, you deserve it. You're worth it. Under no circumstances should you have to chip away at your personal health and wellness to further the agenda of some organization. Now, why are there no easy answers? Why can't we just put this in a box and move on? Well, as it turns out, work-life experience, work-life balance is a pretty complicated mix of where do you live in the world and what are the prevailing attitudes about work and life? Your context. So what kind of industry are you in? What kind of organization are you in? And what kind of culture does it have? What's your specific job within that company and how does that influence it? Could also be your specific situation, like your manager, your team, the people around you, the overall ebb and flow of the job itself, and you. So gender, age, mental, physical, emotional health, mindset, your personal or family situation, and on and on and on. All of these things play a big part in what your lived experience will be with work-life balance. Now, the net of it is this. There's a ton of things, and they're all in flux. That's why it's not straightforward. This is why it's not something that you can just solve and put behind you. I mean, how awesome would it be if you could just, pick up, do a couple of things, and, well, I guess that work-life balance thing is totally solved forever. What's next? Now, as awesome as that would be, it's not realistic because we need to hold all of these things in tension over time. And it's not about a one-time thing. It's about a skill or habit that we're all going to need to build and stick with. Now, why does it matter so much or why is it urgent? Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable, but I think we just have to acknowledge it. And let's start with the big one. So according to the World Health Organization, working 55 or more hours per week is associated with a 35% higher risk of a stroke and 17% higher risk of dying from ischemic heart disease when you compare that with working 35 to 40 hours a week. Now, I don't know how else to say it, so you just come out with it. If you neglect a work-life imbalance now and in the long run, it could kill you before your time. And it already has for tens of thousands of people around the world. And I don't like talking about it. It doesn't feel great to hear it, but I think it's a reality that we just need to acknowledge and let that be what drives some of our urgency and motivation now to set this thing right. And trust me, I know that urgent deadline right now feels like it's the biggest thing in the world. It's super stressful. And the whole idea of stroke, heart attack, it's kind of distant. Maybe it's hypothetical. It's the kind of thing that happens to somebody else. But that's just not true. Because every time we compromise on our health, we get a little bit closer to some of those bad outcomes. Now, if that's all a little bit too heavy, we can look at some things that are less severe, but still negative, and maybe a little bit more immediate and concrete. So for managers and leaders, if you have team members or teams that are neglecting this, here's some bad things you can expect to see. Lower employee engagement, increases in sick leaves and leaves of absence, eroding team morale, employee retention challenges, lowering productivity, more workplace conflict, legal issues, lower quality of work, and the list goes on and on. But the net of it is this. Right now, overworking feels like a quick way to achieve some of our short-term goals. And it seems to work in the short run, which is why there's a bit of an allure there. That's why we keep going back to it. It gives us the illusion that it's working. However, over a long run, this habit of overwork basically endangers everything that we value in the workplace and in our personal life. So it's something that we need to outgrow, and we need to find some better ways. Now, if that's the call to action, what should we do about it? So I read, a few dozen articles, and I put my favorite ones down in the links below. So I would highly encourage you to check some of those out. I found them incredibly helpful and insightful. They will unpack a lot of these things in more detail. So if work-life balance is a big thing for you, please read those, at least some of them. And the gist of the messages you're going to hear will be two parts. So one part is reflect. So do we feel like we understand where we are and why that's where we are? Is it external pressures like our boss or our team or our work environment that is driving us to these behaviors? Is it internal? Is there some kind of mindset or perfectionism, or is there a set of assumptions that we hold that are leading us astray that we can then respond to? And then taking action. And this is going to vary a lot, but you'll hear a lot of things that feel like they're common sense, like speaking up with your manager and your team, like fostering an environment of trust and flexibility, encouraging clear communications, setting and keeping clear boundaries, prioritizing workload appropriately, and rewarding the right behaviors, and many, many more. But the punchline is they're relatively simple and they're within our control. And sadly, that's all the time I have for now. So my hope is that motivates a few of you to take some positive steps for yourself and for the people around you.